Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 3 Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team. And it's live. It is 10 AM on Saturday, August the 30th. We're 55 minutes away from the Game Week 3 deadline. As usual, I'll take on as many or FPL dilemmas as I can between now and that 11 AM UK time deadline. Repeat / similar questions may well be skipped. Apologies in advance. Before I get into the questions, please have a look at the graphics because many of your questions may be answered on screen. I sold Cole Palmer last night for Ismail Assar, was the player I've been speaking about a lot this week. So I'm lining up this week. Lucas Perry in goal, flip of a coin between him and Verbruggen, to be honest. Don't fancy either of them. Porro, Van Dijk, Murillo, Sar's in, Bruno Fernandes, captain, Verts, Gakpo, Bowen, Watkins, João Pedro, Dewsbury Hall, Konsa, Wan-Bissaka in reserve. You'll see my captaincy preferences for the game week. Rotate my correct score predictions to the left of me on screen. Haaland, I think, is the standout, but I don't think there is a particular standout this week. I would put him top of my list. If I owned, I'd captain him. I don't think Chris would. Then I think any of the Manchester United midfield trio, and then Mohamed Salah, then João Pedro. Anything else is a punt. Pretty much. Dan and Doy sitting there in 8th doesn't mean go and buy him. I just fancy him for this week, particularly. I think too much rotation for Forest, probably ahead to go and invest there. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams. Bottom ticker will show you upcoming 5 fixtures for each team and all the flag players currently. And above that and below me is the benching dilemmas, where there are 2 players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start from those 2 players. They run in order left to right, pages 1 to 4. You will also find some goalkeeper benching dilemma options for you from some 4.5 goalkeepers and Martin Dubravka on page 5. Right, I believe that's all the spiel. So let's do the questions. Good luck, everybody. Andy Mackey's first says, hi, James. On Wildcard, who's the best 5 million or less goalkeeper for the long term? Own Cucurella, Munoz and Porro. Cheers, mate. But possibly an influence there in terms of what coverage you have elsewhere. So like if you don't have any Forest, Sells is good. If you don't have any Chelsea, I think Robert Sanchez is probably now in the safe zone, where there was a little bit of concern that Chelsea might buy a goalkeeper. That doesn't look forthcoming now. So I think preference would be those 2 if you don't have any defensive coverage from those 2 teams. The 4.5s, he's wide open, mate. Could be anybody. Literally, I think best immediate fixtures for what I'm looking at up to sort of like game week 13. I actually think Lucas Perry at Leeds is pretty decent. Henderson at Palace, another one in the 5 million bracket. If you've got no Palace defensive coverage, I think it's absolutely fine. He's wide open, mate. Do you know what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't stress about it too much. If I had to go 4.5 and I was wildcarding now and thinking all the way into next year, maybe slight preference for Petrovic of the 4.5s. Aaron McCalden says, good morning, mate. Looking to move on Palmer, thinking of going Johnson, planning on wildcard in 7-8. Do you think he'll be starting until then? If not, I'm looking at either Kudus or Elanga. Prefer Elanga from that. And I'll tell you why. It's very simple. Firstly, Tottenham are not done in this transfer window. I do expect Tottenham to get another attacker in before the end of Monday. And I think that will be someone who can play on the left, which is obviously where Johnson started the first 2 games. Then European competition starts. If you're looking for Johnson in terms of, is he going to play for me for the next 4 or 5 weeks? Can't promise you that, mate. One good thing with Johnson, though, is he can return off the bench, as I've maintained for the last couple of years. Kudos, it's like repeating myself into the fucking wind for people, unfortunately. He's played 8 games for us, including friendlies, and not looked like scoring once. Good luck with that. Doesn't mean he can't, doesn't mean it won't change, but I see nothing to make me think that he's going to be an FPL asset at this stage. Elanga, yeah. The issue with Elanga versus the others is I think there's it's unproven yet whether he can show consistency from a fantasy perspective. But with Leeds and Wolves in the immediate, yeah, I'd attack that personally. Of those choices, I prefer Sardo, by the way. For Sar, I think it's easy to look at the Liverpool fixture in 6 and the Villa fixture now and not like it. He's got a great record against Villa. He's got a good record against Liverpool. There's Sunderland and West Ham in between. Sarr is my preference. Kenneth Faz says, Diouf to Burn or Shah? Which do you prefer, all things considered, cost and share being on pens? So, yeah, as I said on the weekend yesterday, I mean, Fabian Schär has been cleared, as far as we know, to play this weekend. So, the ink, we don't know. But we do think that there's every chance that it'll be on penalties. So love that as a little punt. I think it's a great one for free hitters this week. Diouf to burn or share. I mean, yeah, I probably would go share, I guess, from that. But don't necessarily piss about your 4.5 million defenders. I mean, if that's your kind of worst case scenario at the moment, you probably must be doing great. Spooky Sorcerer says, hi James, should I do Palmer to Ismail Assar and play Richards, bench Larson? Or Palmer and Gu to 2 of Sarr, Anderson, Wood, Mateta? Which 2 do you prefer if the latter? Planning bench boost 5, want to keep Strand Larson. Okay, yeah, I can see that, particularly with you looking at game week 5. So, I mean, the preference from your choices there is Sarr and Wood. It's pretty straightforward. Amanda B says, hi James, how does Spurs getting Simmons affect Johnson? Kind of as just covered. Doesn't necessarily in the immediate. Xavi can play obviously on the left wing. He can play obviously on the 10. We think that he's probably been bought to be the 10. And I think Tottenham may want to buy another left-sided player, as I said before Monday. Obviously, there's no guarantee that that will happen. So, look, Johnson didn't even get on the pitch against PSG. He's kind of been 11th man. We thought last week Tottenham would probably play a back 5 at City. Therefore, many of us thought that Johnson wouldn't play. He's kind of first one out of the team, most likely. But he has obviously scored in both games. So I do think there's a little bit of a principle at the moment in terms of players perform well, keep your shirt. And I actually think Johnson's performed absolutely fine in the first 2 games, despite my criticisms of him. But Xavi Simmons isn't going to be sitting on the bench come game week 6. And if Thomas Frank wants to keep Sarr in this 10 position for certain games, it's Johnson that's going to miss out, mate. Simple as that. So you could be lucky. I think he definitely starts today. I'd be very surprised if the Tottenham team isn't the same that won at Manchester City. But moving on into next week, not a clue, mate. Sean G says, hi James, hope you and the fam are good. Bench one of Reinders, Verts or VVD. Smash a like, people. That feels a little bit grim, that one. doesn't feel great at all. I've got the spinning wheel of doom for me here on my graphics, unfortunately. So I'm just trying to check that I'm still running for you. And I suspect I might not be at this moment. From that lot, am I still running? Yes, I think I am. Apologies. I've got the spinning wheel of doom, but I think I'm still running okay for you. Sorry. Question is, Reinders, Verts or VVD benched? VVD from that. Next up is Zaris says, start Pedro Porro or VDV or Pedro Porro and Nico Williams. Like and subscribe, James and FPL God. Thanks, mate. Simplicity, please. VVD or Williams. VVD for me from that. But I'd probably pick Murillo or Milenkovic over him this week for clarity. JP says, Watkins to Wood captain, worth it. Don't see Villa scoring many at the moment. As discussed earlier this week on a few bits of content, I'm not selling Ollie Watkins with them fixtures that are coming up. He'll get returns. Pretty confident of that. I'd certainly get the appeal of Wood captain. No, I wouldn't be doing that. By the way, for everyone watching live, smash a like, please. Or if you're even watching on a repeat, there's about 15% of you done. So it doesn't cost anything. Be truly appreciated. Next up, Pushcar says, hi, Mr. Not Guilty James. Yeah, it wasn't me. Happy weekend. Help me sort out my midfield picks on a free hit. I'm only sure about Bruno and Barnes. Which other 2 do you like? I'd definitely go 2 Manchester United midfielders. So maybe at this stage, for this week, a slight preference on Bumo over Cunha. But if you prefer that the other way around, perfectly fine. Ilanga's a good shout. Brennan Johnson, this isn't contradictory because, again, I think for this week, that's fine if you want to pick it. But I do think it'll be a tough game for Tottenham today. Rodgers, Sarr with his record. Semenyo, even though it's Tottenham away, it's decent. Reinders away to Brighton. There's a number of okay ones in there. Esteval's a decent one for a free hit this week. I think I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. Nikolai Utney says, morning James, is it worth taking Palmer out for say a Sarr, or do I just roll and play Verts Bowen? I only have 1 free transfer. I can only advise what I've done, mate, and it's gone for me. The word from Simon Phillips, who seems to be on the ball with this Palmer injury last night, was that they are very hopeful that Palmer will be back for game week 4. So if it proper screws up your plans going forward, but obviously he's being bothered by this problem, and it might be something where we don't see the best of him anyway. I don't want to be buying him back till I've seen him, really. Hi James, this is from James Brennan. Bench 2 of VVD, Munoz and Porro. Feel free to skip if I'm benching dilemmas. Have a great weekend. No, none of them are actually. I probably underestimated people's defensive benching dilemmas this week, potentially. I would play Munoz and definitely Porro from that. Steve says, hi James, poor planning has left me with bad captain choices this week. Just brought in Elanga for Palmer last night. Is he worth a captaincy punt over Pedro? For me, no. I'd be very surprised if Pedro doesn't play. But if you want to punt it, it's fine. If there's a week you're going to take a punt, I think captaincy is wide open this week, so make it this week. Alex MJ87 says, morning James, similar team to you, but Bowen was first sub for Palmer. Hold Palmer till after international break and play Bowen, save the transfer, sell Bowen for Wood or sell Palmer for another mid, thanks. Again, I can't see your teammate, but it's going to be Palmer to Sarr is my advice. That's what I've done, so I can only advise the same. Harry Baker says, hi James, thoughts on Watkins captain, Villa 8 days rest versus Palace within 2 days. Yeah, I think Villa will probably win tomorrow. I don't like captain players against Palace. I'll speak about this regularly. Fulham's another one. I don't particularly like it from that perspective. But I do accept that those who want to go João Pedro is kind of wide open this week. Watkins against Palace, no, I'm not high on for captaincy. Not high on it at all. I do think Villa will win, though. I don't think Palace had a stressful night on Thursday. Stephen Henry says, Captain Brennan or Harvey Barnes? I prefer Harvey Barnes of the two. Vivek Gore says, hi James, which to choose? Palmer to Kudos, Johnson and Dye. Or is that meant to be Ndoye? I suppose probably Ndoye, isn't it? I think Ndoye, as I said earlier, is really dangerous off the other side of the international break. Easy to forget. McAtee, Hutchinson, Callum Owendo can all play his position. So dangerous. The one that's safe is Kudos. I don't like it as a pick, as I've said. From that lot, at the moment, I'd probably go Ndoye. Don't like it. Triple T says, Bumo versus Cunha, just covered, so I'm going to skip, thank you. Danny Burns says, thoughts on Palmer to Cunha over Sarr, Semenyo, and then -4 to change Fulkrug to Wood. Good luck as always, keep up the great work. What I'd say in terms of investing in United assets, I've already got Bruno Fernandes in place. I didn't want to be looking at City away and Chelsea at home with two of them in now. So if you don't have any, I'm perfectly happy with anybody buying whichever one they want. And I don't think we've got enough on Fernandes, Cunha, Bumo at this moment to say which one is definitively best. I think Sesko will play. No guarantee on that. If you told me now that he wasn't going to play, I'd say Cunha is probably the best choice this week. But I think that Sesko will probably play, personally. Has been a few things knocking about that he had cramp the other night, which explains the penalty thing. Bruno's the safe as houses one, mate. If you want to go Cunha, mate, I'm fine with that, Danny. In terms of Fulkrug to Wood, -4, I think because Fulkrug is under threat in terms of his place, yes, okay. Pesky Ball says, happy Saturday, James. Would you bench boost with Dubravka, Konsa, Reynaldo and Ndoye? I've seen worse ones than that. Just trying to scan here, Pesky, in the sense that you've got Ndoye as a substitute at home to West Ham. Mind you, he might come under threat in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I don't mind it, mate. I mean, if Ndoye returns, you're happy. Let me sell it to you like that. Yeah, I don't mind it. If you think it's going to benefit you to get rid of it, get rid of it. Abdul Hamid says, good day, James. Palmer and Strand Larson to Ndiaye Gyökeres or Ndiaye and Ekiteke. I've seen a few people buying Gyökeres, and it just feels like people have got Palmer money and don't know what to do with it. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that is the case. That's my read on it. Oh, yeah, he did well last week. Oh, there's a bit of value in him. He scored twice last week. I'm sure I'd be diving there personally. And I get kind of what someone said earlier about even keeping hold of Strand Larson. I perfectly accept that as a viability at the moment. It doesn't sound like he's going to play today. Ekiteke is dangerous to buy at this stage. Isak. But you've got Palmer and Strand Larson. I get that you're going to want to do something. So from that, I would say, subject to what your bench is, Palmer to Ndiaye, if that's the one you like, and just leave it be. Till you got more info. The power of the transfer. I think that if anyone's in true doubt, I think Palmer's a sell generally. But if people feel like they have strong cover for it this week, there's a lot of power in the idea of rolling. There's so much more information to learn. I think most of the teams in the league are going to buy another player between now and Monday. That's a very good reason to roll a transfer this week. And then 4 will be awkward to try and work out. Does Simmons go straight into the Tottenham team at West Ham? I don't know. Abdul Hamid says, good day, James. Palmer. I've just done that. Pushkar says, player to blank for you was Richarlison. Does that mean you suggest staying away from Brennan Johnson as well against Bournemouth? No, to be honest, I had difficulty picking with that this week. And I just fancied that Richarlison might have minutes restricted a little bit. If it's not going well, I think it might be a difficult game for Tottenham today. I think Solanke might get on earlier today. That was a little bit of the thing. If Tottenham have a good day, Richarlison will probably have a good day. So it wasn't a reflection on Richarlison. I just think it's going to be a tough game for us today. I really do. Andrew Jarvis says, morning, mate. My final decision, preference for Bruno on wildcard. Not planning any transfer till 6 or 7. Couldn't you captain a Milenkovic or Bruno captain and Nico Williams? I'm influenced by, as per the weekend yesterday, I'd have put Milenkovic in on a free hit this week. So I'm going to say that route with Cunha. JP says, best NUFC players for the upcoming fixtures. Not sure on which one out of Elanga and Barnes. So Barnes, I think, has the higher ceiling. But when we hit game week 6, we have to think there's a stronger possibility of him coming out the team than Gordon. So sell it to you like this. If you're looking really short term and happy to chain that on, I'd probably go Barnes. If you want to buy a player and you're looking longer term, I'd arguably go Elanga. But also there's a consequence that you want to see that consistency from Elanga, or he's going to get moved on as well. If it were me, I would have a slight preference for Elanga, but there is a 0.5 cost effect to that as well. So in terms of punting either, both reasonable, mate. But there are conflicts, let's say, to both. Julian Snit says, morning, James. How do you see Dango's minutes at Brentford? Yeah, I would imagine pretty good. But again, I think Brentford are going to potentially be busy over the next couple of days. A lot of that might depend on what happens with Visser. So, yeah, my saying that I think Brentford have overpaid for him doesn't reflect on the fact that I don't think he could be a good FPL asset, right? Oh, actually, I do at his price. So all I'd say is it's one, think about how people feel about West Ham assets at the moment. Oh, Sunderland's next game week 1. And then afterwards, it's like, uh-oh. And you might feel that way about Atara. You go with Atara now, Sunderland, right, great. Then afterwards, Chelsea at home, Fulham away, United at home, City at home. Like, it don't scream, does it? You get him in, he blanks today, you might be looking over your shoulder quite quickly. But from a minutes perspective, yeah, I think he will be a first choice, I think. Ryan Renfrey says, morning, James. Sorry for already asked, but is Bowen to Chris Wood worth it if I'm then going to captain him? Thanks. If you believe Chris Wood's the best captain this week, then arguably yes. That said, if I'd have bought Wood this week, I'd have captained him. If Palmer wasn't injured, I would have rolled and I wouldn't have bought Wood. So, but that's me thinking about my longer term plan and thinking the value of the transfer is more. CHJMC M605. Solanke to start versus Bournemouth. Marmoush to start versus Brighton. Marmoush is a 50-50. I'm pretty sure I've got him in my predicted City lineup, but it's toss a coin. Richarlison, I'd be very surprised if he didn't start today, mate. My homie says, morning, James. Good luck with the Saar pick. I've got him 2. Start 3 of Porro, 8 Norrie, Tosin, Williams. Episode 2 of the weekend was good. Keep it up. Good content. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. So will David. We'll get better at that podcast the more me and David do stuff together. So it's bench 1, isn't it? Yikes. Tossing. Ken Who says, hi, big fan of your pod. With Simmons coming in, would you prefer Kudus or Johnson for next 4 game weeks? Also choose between Odoi versus Undoy, Elanga versus Barnes for the next 4 games. I feel like I've answered all of them, so I'm just going to say, if I had to buy a Johnson or Kudus now, at least I was going to say, at least I know what I get with Brennan. At least I know what his output could be, but he could easily be out of the team and it's just a headache. So by default, even though I see enough, it's Kudus. And Doy over Hudson Odoi for me. Elanga versus Barnes has said there's a slight preference for me on Elanga. But they're all coin tosses, mate. Bill Kerr says bench Eze or Pat Matasar. I'm COMFS. I'm going to say I hope that's come on motherfucking Spurs. I think Eze starts for Arsenal, but I don't think there's any guarantee in that. I think actually when you factor in the fixtures where Sarr's likely to play today, there is a case for Sarr above him. A small case. We know what we're getting from Sarr today. So just Sarr as a one-off, yeah, just about Sarr maybe. Don Pierce says, hi James, Palmer out for Harvey Barnes, Ismaila Sarr or Morgan Gibbs-White. Planning for Wildcard week 13-ish, if that helps. So, I mean, my wildcard plan's similar, so you've landed in a similar position to me. Shout out for our patrons, by the way. I think everybody's pretty confident in what the Chelsea team will be this week. I think it's on screen for you now, or just gone round. It will come round again. But if we do have anything on Chelsea Fulham, please drop me a tag on Slack patrons, and we'll share it with the community. Next up is Ryan Mack. Hi James, have a great weekend. Smash the like, people. Yeah, thank you. Smash the like, everyone. We are on maybe 25% likes. Come on, people. Doesn't cost anything. Smash a like, please. Murphy says Anderson first sub, so I think I'm doing Palmer to Sard this week. Would you also then do Goo to Wood captain with the other free transfer, or hold and start Rangers? Yeah, if it was position of free transfer, yeah, I'd be getting that done, Murphy. Anish Nakra says, I moved Palmer out and also upgraded one of my defenders before the Wolves press conference. Now I have 6 attackers, assuming Strand Larsen won't start. Should I take a hit to upgrade Goo to Mateta? No, I don't think that's worth a hit. JP says, what transfer rumours do you think will actually happen? Egg, Isak to Liverpool, etc. Sensio back to Villa, I think is one. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some form of trade. I think Tottenham will buy a defender and a left-sided forward before the window closes. 2 names being strongly linked in the Tottenham ITK community overnight: Emmanuel Akanji and Ademola Lookman. Tottenham are still trying for Savinho. Manchester United are probably nearly done. Bournemouth will get another centre-back. I've seen a lot of people putting centre-side in. I think that's mad dangerous, personally. Newcastle will probably get another attacker, something like Vissar. Jackson's going to Bayern Munich, as per this morning. Forest, I wouldn't rule out doing business, particularly kind of backup defenders, maybe. Wolves need bodies more. Leeds could be anything. City, probably done. Everton, not far off done. I want a fullback, I think, primarily. Fulham have been so quiet, so I wouldn't rule out late business for them, maybe even some loans or something. Sunderland wouldn't rule out of anything. Brentford wouldn't rule out. Chelsea is Chelsea. Liverpool, Isak, Gay or alternatives. West Ham will be busy, I think. They've obviously got a couple of midfielders through the door. Brighton could come up with something absolutely random. Arsenal was probably just Hincapié, then probably done. Burnley need to get some players out, possibly to get some players in, but don't rule them out. So I said nearly everybody's going to do some business, I think, mate. AG29 says, hi, James. On Wildcard 13, Ismail Assar in for Palmer, then switch to Rice Eze game week 7, or just get Rice now and save the transfer. No, I'd go for the upside of Sarr, and I don't think you necessarily will want to be moving that on. Necessarily, you may be quite happy with Ishmael. See how he does. Pushkar says, on the weekend pod, you said that Cher would be in a free hit team if he was fit. Why him over Livramento or Trippier? Didn't House said he was okay to start, but I'm unsure with the concussion rules. But they said he was fit to start, so let's even sell it this way. If you're on a free hit this week, he'll either start or he won't play at all, right? So have a bench, have a good first sub just in case. We think that there's every chance Pushkar will be on pens. It's as simple as that, mate. Elron Cupboard says, favourite sauce on a breakfast butty? Oh, ketchup, mate. Yeah. There's a divide, in my opinion, mate. And it's somewhere around Birmingham, so I don't want to hurt people from Brumland, but there's north of that area is brown sauce and south is red sauce, mate. It's life. CHJM605. Is Cunha worth my last free transfer? I have a player worth 4 expected points, but I have Cunha on 6 expected points. In other words, how much is a free transfer worth? How much would you buy a free transfer for if you could? Wildcard in Gameweek 4. Okay, if you're looking at expected points based on 1 week only, you're probably never going to find a transfer ever worthwhile, mate. So you're looking at beyond that period. Okay, there's also the upside, right? So an expected point doesn't tell you what a ceiling of the player is. I don't know who you're selling, right? You might have someone, I don't know, Dewsbury Hall. Maybe his expected points this week is 4 and Cunha's 6, a hypothetical. Do you think that transfer wouldn't be worth it, for example, to make your team better this week? How long is it for? How long are you judging for? Do you want to move that player on? Do you want to keep them? If you're only ever judging just on the 1 week on the expected points model of what you're looking at, unless you're going to be buying Salahs and Haalands, you're probably never going to make a bloody transfer unless you've got an injured player, mate. So look beyond just the 1 week. Nicky Kassam says, morning, wanting to roll this week, but feel like I'm on a sinking ship named Marlon. I could start Keenan Dewsbury Hall and hope Daniel doesn't keep dropping, or go Keenan Dewsbury Hall to King and Marlon to Sarr for -4 preference. Meh. I I would prefer just to go to like bloody Elliot Anderson or something, mate. The Ishmaelis off -4 don't feel right. Dewsbury Hall to King is kind of wasting a transfer. There's no guarantee that King will even start, mate. I think I have got him in my predicted team, but I think that's a possibility that he comes out of the team. Dewsbury Hall's a bit meh, but you know what you're going to get from him. It's kind of safe, certainly from minutes at the moment, let's say. Marlon is probably a move on, but with the injuries to Onana, if Kamara doesn't make it, there is a small chance that he might even play tomorrow. I don't think he will, but he might. You might find that what you're jiggling around isn't worth it in the immediate, and there's maybe more power in the rolling of the transfer for information. That's going to open you up to make 2 transfers next week, and they're both for free. I probably prefer that. I get the value perspective of it, but I probably prefer that. Please don't make early transfers this week, guys, at least until that transfer window is shut. Loads of players on internationals, etc. Just calm if we can. Nikki Kassam says, morning, wanting to roll this week. I've just read yours. LP says, hi, James. Currently bust with Munoz, Conser, Watkins, and Rogers. No playing bench. Would you sell Palmer to bench one of them or just roll this transfer? Cheers. Separate Palmer from the rest of that. That's fine, right? It's fine. They probably aren't all going to return, but they're all decent assets, right? Separate Palmer from that. Now just ask yourself the Palmer question. I can't really answer that bit for you in terms of what your plan is moving forward. I think it's probably a sell. But you sound like you're content with a roll. So if you are, roll. David Jones Whiteway, Mo Ju a Hall. Hasn't he got like 2 goals in like 10 game weeks or something? Yeah, I suppose he is. I'm hoping it's tomorrow, even though I don't own him because you know what they're playing. Callum says, apart from the obvious Isak situation with knock-on impacts to Ekiteke, what are the main clubs and fantasy assets you're keeping an eye on depending on the end of the transfer window? Well, I think Tottenham would be one, actually. We might have some, we might be sitting here in a couple of weeks going, it's Lookman, Simmons, Kudos, and I'm really interested in some of these players potentially. Newcastle is an intriguing one. I think how we sit with Palace after this weekend might be quite interesting. We might be up on their prospects. We might be down if Gay goes and they don't replace adequately. But it's too many, as kind of covered, too many variables at play to, am I keeping an eye on? I'm not particularly. Thank you, Peter. Good luck to you too. Frederick Hertz, Gibbs White into captain, have Palmer and Saka, but don't like United. No, I wouldn't go there. I think Gibbs White is probably not the best Forest pick, but the safest Forest pick if money's kind of no object, right? Captain, don't love that, personally. Dave Hannigan says, morning all, smash that old like button, guys. Have a great weekend all. Thank you, Dave. Dan Bianconi says, any preference on Barnes versus Elanga? I've covered that for someone else. I'm going to skip. Thank you, Dan. Excuse me. Eddie R says, hey, James, 2 free transfers, free hit game week 4. 3 options, bench Palmer and play Richards. Palmer Angu to Anderson and Wood, then bench Wirtz. I wouldn't be benching Wirtz over Anderson, personally. Or just downgrade Palmer and play Wirtz. Any thoughts? Downgrade Palmer and play Wirtz. That's what I'm doing. But I also accept that if you're free hitting in 4, then Wirtz's appeal is even less, and I certainly accept it's quite low at the moment anyway. Big thing for me on Wirtz is he's played 2 of the most extreme high pressing teams in this league in the first 2 games. The next 3 games, I believe, are opposites. Arsenal can be it, but I don't think they will be tomorrow. Burnley won't, Everton won't. Might be very, very different games for Florian Wirtz. Might not be, but they might be. I'd still want to see him play through these personally. Jason Stilling says, hi James, Richarlison in for Larson, bench boosting to need 15, thanks. That's a pain in the arse. I would assume that you can't get to Wood, João Pedro. I'm not convinced on Thiago. Yeah, just think you're potentially walking into a problem after this week. But for your circumstance, it's probably the decision that you're going to make. Pushcast says, any preference between Rangers, Elliot Anderson? Does West Ham being poor and set pieces make a case for Anderson? Is Douglas Luiz going to play? Do we know that? I haven't got him in my predicted lineup, but is he going to play? Is that going to have an impact? It'd be Rangers for me. Dan says, start Aït-Nouri or Semenyo, own 2 Spurs defenders. I'd still be starting Semenyo, mate. Semenyo might score and the Tottenham players could get defcons. That's unlikely, but not impossible. Porro might assist Romero from a corner. They might all return. JD says, yes, James, what do you think of Harvey Barnes for a 3-week punt? Who would you say is the best Newcastle defender? If you're just going to 3 weeks, then yep, like Harvey Barnes. Defensive ones, you've got to chase the upside of share at this moment, I think. Just on the possibility that it might be on pens for 3 decent fixtures. MJ says VVD or Gabriel on wildcard as per yesterday. I'd actually go Gabriel at this stage. Michael Hare says, hi James, I could -4 on my sub goalkeeper and bench boost with Dewsbury Hall, Diouf and Estev. No, you got Larson as well. No, there'll be other opportunities, mate. Gavin Richardson says, hey up your big biscuit, put out a Frimpong fire with Romero, but trouble looming. Palmer, Verts, Ekiteke, Bowen look like future fires. Why to suck it up this way and wait and say, right, with the fire immediately in front of you right now is Cole Palmer, mate. Focus on the decision of that, forget everything else. Reece C says, hey James, hoping we get a win against Bournemouth today. Please ignore off on benching dilemmas, but Rangers or Verts, play Verts. Josh Davis says, hi James, where would you place Ray and Aït-Nouri on a bench in dilemmas? Cheers. I have seen a few where it's like Porro, Munoz, Murillo, like it does look awkward. For most people, it's a play. So I think for most people, for me, it would probably go at top of the defensive assets. So it's kind of same position as Tarkovsky. That's where it'd go. There are a select few people who have that sort of dilemma this week, and it's a rough one. So yeah, Aït-Nouri top of the defenders, and any of them other players I just mentioned, kind of same, just above Tarkovsky. Josh, I've done Rob Pick. Hello, buddy. Says on free it. Currently have Pickford, Milenkovic, Murillo, and Dorgu as goalkeeper and back three. What would yours be? Have Sells, Pope, Share, Porro on the want list. Good luck. I'd stick Share in, mate. I'd definitely stick him in. So either of, for me, probably on this week, Murillo, and that's as discussed on the weekend. Milenkovic against West Ham looked really weak on set plays. So chasing the hauls as I did with mine last week, Rob, with the likes of Chalobah and Diakite. Hanny says, hello, James. Jordan Elliott says, morning, James. Who are you considering using your triple captain? I've not really thought about it that much. I think it will probably land for me in Gameweek 14 or 15, so I'm very chilled about it. If I end up with Haaland, then Gameweek 6, possibly. P. Macca says, the weekend with Dan is really good show. Thanks. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. As said, we'll get better at it as well. Oh, no, I've lost my place in the chat. Sorry. If you haven't submitted a question, I wouldn't bother, guys. There's no chance I'm going to get to you. I feel like I've been slow today. Sorry. Let's try and wrap this up a bit quicker then. Reese Rudd. Not sure if I should wildcard or not. Got Palmer in the bench, Verts, Gakpo, Bruno, and Reinders in the middle. Watkins, Pedro, Bone. If you're not sure about wildcarding right now, mate, don't. Simple as that. So much information to use it during the international break. I don't mind if you activate it like in an hour and a half, mate. Planting Seeds says, James, if you were manager at Man United after international break, what are you doing, bud? Playing the back four to start with. I mean, goalkeeper and number 6 would be priorities for me, by the way. But I'd be playing the back four, mate. Morgan Reese says, not playing wildcard soon. Saka to Bruno or Elanga or Kudos for next few weeks, Bruno, mate. Tanky says, fortunately, Elanga captain will be on set pieces now Gordon is out. I don't think the prospect of taking corners would be enough to convince me to think Anthony Elanga for captaincy, personally. Dr. FPL start Strand Larson or Reindeers. Don't think it's going to matter, mate, because it sounds like Strand Larson's probably not going to play today. Loads of Tron says, hi, James. On a Gameweek 3 wildcard, always the plan. Would you prefer Barnes or Elanga? I've covered. So I'm going to skip, but thank you for your question. Daniel Mackey says, not money in the bank or obvious way to save some. Are there any Larson replacements or can I just bench him and play King, Goodmanson, Estev? None of them options on the bench are great. I would probably... King will probably play. I don't think you'd fancy him to return. I'd probably go with the unlikely narrative of, oh, Newcastle don't have a forward. Might they struggle offensively today? Play Goodmanson kind of narrative. I do still think Newcastle will win today. And probably the information will be better for you, I think. As discussed, someone earlier was looking at Richarlison for a bench boost. It's like, okay, I understand why you're pushed in. But for you, it might just be, okay, is what it is this week. And you'd have 2 threes to fix it if you need to next week. Rumblefish says, hey mate, love your work. I'm on wildcard, stuck on 2 spots. Brennan, Semenyo, or more gives White Semenyo from that. Second one, 2 of João Pedro, Wood, Ekiteke. Not Ekiteke till we got more Isak info. Or go rogue and take all 3 over Haaland. You could do that, but I don't think, like, if for those on wildcard in 4, if Isak's still not a Liverpool player come Tuesday, Ekiteke is a great asset. But I think we have to be concerned. If you don't go with Haaland, how do you get there? I can't see your team to know what your plan is. The chances are you will want to. Jack Stedman says, morning James, planning to roll and see what happens with Palmer. We'll need to start either Nico Williams or Dewsbury Hall, but I'm a Bowen owner too. Who would you start in my circumstances? Bowen. I would start probably Nico Williams over Dewsbury Hall, but I would also start Bowen. Yeah. Nico Williams couldn't get DEFCON from tackles even. CHJM605. I spoke about Watkins' captaincy earlier, not high on that. Kalen says, plan to free hit in 6 for Haaland, but my team looks good. Wood, Pedro, Watkins have good fixtures, team dependent. But what are the best free hit weeks? Currently have Sana planning to wildcard in 13 for Haaland. What I recommend you do is go back and listen to the Chip Strategy podcast, which was on the Wednesday before the season started, because the answers that I gave on there will be way better than any answer I can give you now with struggling to look through fixtures. It's also a bit, now the season started, it's a little bit team dependent, right? I saw one yesterday, was like, wow, that's brilliant for free hit 6 with what you've got, but I don't know if that's what you've got. Lewis Bowman says, got in Haaland and Ndoye for Palmer and Watkins to punty. Mate, you've done your transfers, Lewis. So the only thing I've got to say to you is good luck, pal. Bizbo 99, Palmer out for Bruno, Cap Bruno or Palmer out for Semenyo, Gu out for João Pedro, Bruno if you got no United, mate. Neil McNevin says, hi James, is Palmer to Ismaila Sarr worth the -4 or better to wait until after the break? I think if it had been -4, I wouldn't have done it. I think, yeah, I would have taken the info, I think. I don't think I'd have done it for a hit. Jiggins is going Bruno, triple captain. Good luck. Cog says, hi James, who to bench from VVD, Van der Ven, Murillo, Cucurella, or play all 4 and only 3 mids? I think it's Van der Ven from that, mate. I think it's Van der Ven from that. Yeah, Van der Ven from that. Paulie G, how does Xavi Simons impact minutes and for which players at Spurs? I'll answer that for you after the transfer window shut a bit more, but he's going to impact potentially any of Johnson, Sarr, Bentancur, Paulinho. But I told you, I don't think we're done. P9 says, did Palmer to Esteval? I think he gets more minutes than people expect. Am I mad? No, you're just definitely not mad, mate. But I do think there's a scenario in 2 weeks where Garnacho's starting on the left and Neto's starting on the right. So it wouldn't be one for me. Great one for free hitters this week. Arabia Felix Gaming says, a little benching headache start Mayenda or Reynildo, Nico Williams or Murillo. Murillo over Williams, Mayenda straightforward over Reynaldo. Off the biscuit on wildcard, Bumo and Gibbs White or Bruno and Anderson, both leaving in game week 8. Bruno, the Bruno route. FPL here, Fishy. Thanks for the mention earlier in the week. Minus 27.1 million rank. I'd recommend roll if you can field 11. I'm doing so with Palmer, Rain 8, Norwich, Stan Larson. Ranks are so condensed. Gary Woolward says, last wildcard defender choice, Timber, Lacroix or Murillo. Have no other defender coverage from those teams. Murillo, all decent picks, but Murillo for me. Charles says, hi James, if I got 1 free transfer only, should I go for Palmer to Gibbs White, Ismaila Sarr? Who would you pick? I've gone for Ismaila Sarr, mate. DT, love the content, James. Thoughts on Morgan Gibbs White for Palmer's differential? I think it's a bit meh at his price. If Gibbs White was in at 6.5, he'd have been a real consideration for me. I think he's too expensive for what he is, personally. So I'd rather come down. and put a little bit of money in the bank. Devon drops is done. Wan-Bissaka to Reynildo. Bowen to Wood for a -4. Can't bear West Ham players in team. Another price spot. James Morgan. Why in God green blowhole do you still have Bowen? Because I don't want to take a -4 to remove him, mate. And to be honest, I wouldn't have sold him for free anyway. I wouldn't have known where I was going. It's 2 games. I know exactly what Jared Bowen is. How would you feel, by the way, if West Ham lost today? It was really bad and he got sacked and then they had a manager bounce. Then going into some fixtures that I think are okay. Tottenham, Palace, Everton. Gameweek 8 is a captaincy option for me. So I'm not in a rush, mate. Points. I know exactly what Jared Bowen is. Would I change him? Like if it was on Wildcard, would he be there? No. Am I going to panic about a player? I know exactly what he's capable of. No. ATL's AM says, who's better option? Top 3 striker, Haaland, Ekiteke, Wood, João Pedro. I mean, Ekiteke is the risky one from that at this moment. Joel Warren says, got Strand Larsen, no Palmer, Wirtz and Strand Larsen out, or just rely on Richards off the bench? Richards off the bench is okay. Probably not going to get you anything this week, but it's okay. I think the information supersedes that personally. Wirtz is similar to me as how I just explained about Bowen. Sean Limbrick says, morning James, hope you and the family are well. Best 2 midfielders priced no more than a combined 12 million for this week, please. Oh, shit. No more than 12. Crap. Otara and Ndoye. I think you can afford that. I think they're 6 each, aren't they? If they haven't gone up in price. I'm going to say them 2. Sorry, not got pricing in front of me. Next up is Hillbilly. 5 million in the bank, 1 free. Upgrade Goo to Wood to bench Wirtz or roll and look at the options that may present next week. Would have a roll onto defenders I'm looking at. I don't mind you go and get Wood. It feels like a clear one that's pretty good over the next 4 weeks or so. So yeah, I would upgrade that. Chris Bradley says, morning James, benching dilemmas, VDV or Ryan 8 Nori. I'd play 8 Nori. Rutter or Wirtz. I'd play Wirtz. At least I'm pretty confident we'll start. We don't even know where we're at with Rutter. D.80 says, morning James, how do you feel about big at the back? I'm on wildcard trying to find the best squad structure. Currently have Cucurella, Gabriel, Porro, Milenkovic. It feels like a lot of budget. I'm not going to tell you to change your wildcard for 30 minutes for a deadline, mate. All of those picks are reasonable. Arbar Ahmed says, Barnes or Elanga on free hit. On the free hit, Barnes, comfortably for me. Just for this week, yeah, Barnes. Mike Chang says, morning James, got rid of Palmer for Enzo, Punty and Goo for Wood captain. Who would you drop from midfielder? Agakpo, Salah, Enzo, Reinders and Rice. Thanks for the content, Rice, from the fixtures this weekend. En says, thoughts on getting Boomo for this week? Yep, okay, mate. Arubala says, hi James, bench one of Rogers, Kudus or Reinders. Away fixture, Reinders. Liam Doyle says, hi James, 1 free transfer left. Went Palmer to Semenyo last night to avoid the price rise. Would you use the second free transfer to go Mark Good to Wood and captain, or roll the second free transfer and captain Fernandez? Thank you. I'd probably use it, personally. For free, I mean, it's an upgrade staring you in the face. I'd probably get it done. Rubber Ducky's in. Hello, my friends. Says, quack, wildcard cracked. Good luck. Jacob Frost is downgrading Palmer. Thinking Barnes, he should get the next free. Then free hit 6. Anyone better in your opinion? Anyone better around 6.5 or lower for next free? Next free is fine, mate. Yeah, I'm not going to shout you any different on that, mate. Monate Herbal says, to the most hardworking man in FPL, salute Jimbo. Thank you, mate. Smash a like, please, everyone. Victor Sandberg says, on a scale between 1 and 10, how much effort do you put into your game predictions? That's a fascinating question. I don't know how to score that, and I'll tell you why. It's a job that I normally do on a Thursday night. And then if something happens, I change it. But normally, for me on a Thursday night, that's me thinking about unavailability of players, potential tactical matchups in the game. It's very rare that I make a prediction on a Thursday night and change my mind. So I'm going to say quite well, I think. But I wouldn't take me. I'm not sitting there for like an hour on each, right? But I give each game quite a bit of thought. Jamie Williams says, "Hi James, hope you're good. I'm thinking I'll bench Bowen and play Keenan Dewsbury Hall. I've got double Forest defence. Is this sound, or do you think I might regret it? I'm thinking I'll bench Bowen, play Keenan Dewsbury. No, I wouldn't be picking Keenan Dewsbury Hall over Bowen. I wouldn't care if Bowen was away to Arsenal and Dewsbury Hall had Sunderland at home. I don't think I'd pick Dewsbury Hall over Bowen. Talisman. I say this a lot. People regular to my streams, generally speaking, try not to bench Talisman. If, hypothetical scenario, if I told you now that West Ham would win 2-0 on Sunday, no, I don't think they do either. West Ham go to Forest, score early, put up a great defensive display, score again on the counter-attack late on. It's not that improbable. How do you think Jared Bowen does in that fixture if I told you that? All we need here is West Ham to start looking a bit better. I agree. That doesn't look likely at the moment. Talisman. I ain't benching Talisman, mate. I'm not doing it. Unless I had real hard dilemmas where I was like, oh my God, my team is amazing this week. But if you look at the benching dilemmas, right, I've got Bowen above the likes of Rodgers and Sarr, two players who might be popular in terms of purchasing. So I've bought Sarr this week. If I had to make a choice between Sarr and Bowen, I would have benched Sarr. I do not like benching Talisman. Yusuf says Richards or Diouf for this week, not the West Ham player. Andy Max says need to bench one of Gakpo, Semenyo, Ismail Assar this week. Help. Was considering Sarr as maybe a bit leggy after Thursday. We love scoring against Villa, so not sure now. I agree with you, Andy, but I think that's the right decision. Lewis Bowman says, how is this not the most popular deadline stream? Smash the like button, you animals. Because everyone else starts an hour before me. And it's an hour can be painful. I ain't doing fucking 2 hours. For our patrons, give us a shout if we got any Chelsea information. It'd be truly appreciated. I'm not expecting anything to be dramatic. Thank you, Dan, who says that his daughter is watching the stream and it's better than Peppa Pig. My son would probably disagree, personally. So shout out to do you know what? I've looked now. There's a lot of hair. I've assumed it's a daughter. Sorry if it's not, Dan. Andy Klim says, hi, James. Long term, which pairing do you prefer? Morgan Gibbs-White and Mateta or Sarr and Wood? Anthony says, hi, James. I still have Solanke. Is he a sell? Yeah, he is, mate. Abbar says, is João Pedro necessary in free hit? And not if there's 3 other forwards you prefer, mate. Jay Lee says, reasons for Gakpo ahead of Rangers. Gakpo's record at Anfield is absolutely brilliant, mate. I spoke about this before I captained him in game week 1. That went okay. Simple as that. Game at Anfield. I'm not mentioning a Liverpool attacker when they're playing at Anfield. No, thank you. As far says, hi, James. Have both Munoz and Konsa. Personally think there will be no clean sheet for either of them, but the other option is to play Casado. Do I just hope it's 0-0 play Casado? What did you get Casado in for, mate? Serious question. What did you get Casado in for? You got him in for his consistency, so he'd tick over, right? Otherwise, you might as well just got a 4.5 million midfielder. I, from that, would probably play Munoz and Casado, despite the fact I think Villa will win. Bailey A says, do you not feel Wood is worth -4 for Bowen? No, mate. If I did, I'd have done it, wouldn't I? Try Rodder says, hold Palmer with Minter off the bench. Hold Palmer with Minter off the bench. Sell for me. Jürgen says, hey, James, Fulkrug to Wood and captain for -4. So the slightly different one to hit this and Bowen is, right, I think Fulkrug is under threat in the near future in terms of his place to the team. Jared Bowen's is not. So, yeah. Particularly if you think Wood is the right captaincy, that effectively, I think, will make it worthwhile. Alex Young says, hi, James. Just heading out the door to go to Spurs. So advice, please. Start Dewsbury Hall or toss him. Toss him. I think. Yeah, probably. I've backed Chelsea for a clean sheet. Close one. Emir Burhan. I'm not reading your whole team out, mate, but I will read the end bit. Should I bench Semenyo or start Renders? I would start Semenyo. Devon Keys says, hi, James. I feel like there's a lot of new players coming to the league that could be good FPL picks. Ultimate, Eze, Xavi Simons, etc. Do you think it's worth not replacing Palmer this week to get more info? Yes, to an extent, but what information do you learn on Xavi Simons, right? If Eze doesn't play, do you know if he's going to start 4? No. Simons, we don't know if he's going to start 4. No. I think the information in terms of consequences for other players, he's now more of a rotation risk, is kind of like, say, like a Johnson, right? Would be worthwhile. I think it's in sell category. He's carrying a problem, they're managing it. I think it's in sell territory for me. Lewis Skidmore says, morning James, would you do Evan Nilsson to Wood for free? I get the temptation, but then fast forward a week and Wood goes to Arsenal when Evan Nilsson's got Brighton at home. Now, if we're judging it over the 4 weeks, then you could say, it's Burnley, Sunderland as well. But, Evan Nilsson's got Newcastle at home, Leeds away. It's not bad. Unless you're going to captain Wood, I'd sit tight, personally. Ungia says, hello, James. I went Palmer to Semenyo, Gu to Wood. What do you think of the moves? I think fine, mate. But I'm never going to destroy someone's day and tell them their moves are shit. After I've already made them, I just want to say good luck, mate. Play it your way. But they're fine. Spooky Sorcerer says, start Joachim Anderson on Richards. Just on Villa have obviously not scored in the first 2. I'd be surprised if they didn't score tomorrow, but there could be a narrative that builds there. I would guess slightly higher probability of Palace clean sheet than Fulham. If Palace did keep a clean sheet, Richards might find himself under duress where DEFCON's even become a possibility. Neetam123. We're 5 minutes from deadline, by the way, guys. Neetam123. Can I hear your thoughts on why you think Sarr will do better than Renders? Villa have been solid defensively. You could look at Sarr's historical performance against Villa as a start. If you want to go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, that's Villa's high line. Sarr the man to break the high line. There's a reason for you, mate. Discord in my head. Could have start Elanga for next 3-4 game weeks. You're very welcome, Nico. What was the fucking question? Could have start or Elanga? Sarr, mate. Eric Langstrom, Barnes for Palmer and cap him. Right now it's on Salah. I wouldn't be going captain personally. But if you want to take a punt, this is the sort of week to do it. Abrahamid says Murillo, Barnes or Cher and Doy. Murillo, Barnes, I'm thinking beyond this week, despite my comments on Cher. Hin says, do we sell those West Ham stocks now? We probably should, but I haven't. FPL Rubber Ducky, rumours of Barnes' injury at Newcastle. Source, please. That source is not reliable. Okay? Doesn't mean it's not true. That source is not reliable. I've seen the tweet. It's not reliable. It's an account I've got muted. So, yeah. I mean, it probably is enough to make you want to go Elanga over Barnes at this stage late in the day. But that source doesn't mean it's not true. But I'm telling you, that source who has put that out is not reliable. He's a guesser. He's a chancer. Big Chief. If you don't know if you're free hitting a wildcard at this stage, I ain't going to tell you to do either, mate. Sean, I've done thoughts on Brennan Johnson. Angus Chow says, which one should I bench out of Semenyo, Mateta, Reinders, Hillbilly? Would Anderson be at the top of the benching dilemmas? No. No, it'd probably be above the defenders. That's about it. Hunter type says, hello, James. Thank you for all you do. Spursy question, Spence or VDV or both? Definitely not both. What is this for? I mean, if it's for a free hit, surely it's not double Tottenham defence. VDV at the moment, mate. Doggy's back in the squad. But Jed will keep the shirt for the moment. But then European fixtures after game week 4. Who knows what happens then? Matt Gross says, play Rodon at home against Newcastle without 2 first-choice strikers or Anderson away at Chelsea with their knack of making the game a tough one. I would arguably want to chance Rodon, but I do think Chelsea Fulham will be low scoring, so it's slight preference as per the benching dilemmas for Anderson. But if you have that the other way around, I don't mind it, Matt. Abra says, and Doyle Barnes, well, I better say on Doyle to be on the safe side at this stage, or no. Any info from our Slack community, please do share. But I don't think we've got anything going around at the moment. We are 2 minutes from deadline, guys. Please make sure you're getting those teams locked in. I'm going to go to the end of the chat at this stage. Sorry to those I'm skipping. Sorry. Just in case anyone's got anything in terms of information. But if you are putting something in the chat, quote your source or I'm not going to share it. Please don't put people in a panic. It's not funny. But as far as I can see at the moment, we're minute to deadline, guys. As far as I can see, there's no information on the Chelsea lineup. I think for clarity, it will be Sanchez, James, Adebayo, Chalobah, Cucurella, Caicedo, Fernandez, Esteval, Neto, who fuck am I missing? João Pedro, obviously, and Delap. I think it'd be similar. Yeah, I don't think there's anything coming in. I know one of our patrons thinks that there's a chance for Fafana might play instead of Chalobah. Taj would not be taking a -4 for Gyökeres. I spoke about that earlier. I'm not really. We're chasing. We just played Leeds. We're chasing it now. He's playing away to Liverpool. Mike Chang says, quick, everyone, smash the like button. We are seconds away from deadline, guys. I've got no information coming in on Chelsea or anyone else for that matter. To repeat that, Harvey Barnes information doesn't mean it's not true, but that source is not reliable. And we are at deadline, 11 a.m. everyone. I will hang around until that Chelsea lineup is confirmed. For anyone who wants to ask any non-FPL questions, throw them in the chat. We'll cover them off for 15 minutes or so. If you came just for the FPL stuff, please smash a like, hit the sub button. It would truly be appreciated. I am 8 paying patrons away from 800. And that was my target for the end of August, was 800. If you want to support the show, I can generally go to Suj's office on Monday morning and ask for a pay rise if I get 8 extra paying patrons over this weekend. The evidence. So if you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. If you want to have a look at what patrons first, sign up as a free member. You can have a look at the best bits that was released last night or the best bits from the week before. The best bits are available to free members. Or feel free to drop me a DM and I'll answer any questions you've got about Patreon as well. There's 5 additional podcasts from me every week from Intermediate Plus. Additional advanced tier content myself every week, includes a Zoom call with me every week as well. And that will go ahead next week because jury service is finished. You get no ads content except for the live streams. Because of live streams. From basic tier, basic plus, you access to a Slack community and our planner, which includes a ticker for some of you might see on the weekender for UCL fantasy. Intermediate plus gets you the podcast. Advanced tier gets you the warts and all and absolutely everything and instant responses to DMs and shit like that. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Next week's content, let me tell you, will be Monday, game review podcast for myself and Suj. Clash of Correspondence Tuesday, Manchester City versus Manchester United with Johnny Pringle and Alex Trembath. Clash of Correspondence Wednesday, another local matchup. Brentford versus Chelsea with Tom Med, Gary Mansell. Lauren Harris is joining me for a preview of the WSL season on Thursday, which starts next weekend. David will be back with me for the weekend on Friday. Our podcast on Patreon this week, I can tell you, will be Q&A on Monday, Money in Football on Tuesday, which is going to include a look at some of Sunderland's finances, I can tell you. And also this TV rights deal for the Bundesliga, amongst some other things. Tottenham Wednesday, me and Suj will be wrapped into whatever Tottenham West Ham doing a transfer. We're now going to be busy a couple of days. Arsh James is going to be on Patreon next week, on Friday. And on Thursday, we're piloting a new show, which he's just given me the thumbs up on the title. That show with Nico. We're going to pilot it on Patreon this month. It's a monthly idea where Nico kind of puts me to the test and I got no knowledge of what he's going to discuss on some of the big football topics over the last month or so. It's going to be very light-hearted and relaxed. How funny it is up to Nico and some of my responses. But for those who watch Nico's Corner on Patreon, think of it as a toned down Nico's Corner with the focus on football. We're going to trial that on Patreon this week. If the patrons like it, we'll put that public monthly starting from next month. Right. That's the content. Again, if you want to support the show, www.patreon.com/planetfpl. For those wondering about being dad, by the way, for my patrons, it'll be the week after. Right. Any non-FPL questions, get them in and I'll cover them off for you. Greg, non-FPL, what's the best? Thank you, SW6 Upro, I appreciate it. Greg says, non-FPL, what's the best Premier League team for Kobe Minu to go on loan where he starts every week? Well, if Manchester United played a back four, it'd just be stick up Manchester United, wouldn't it? I think. Playing double pivot, personally. An immediate good one for Minu on loan. It's probably abroad, by the way. I don't think it should be dipping far, personally. I'm not sure there is a right fit. I mean that honestly. I'm not sure there is at this moment. I would recommend going abroad. That's generally my take on that. Go and play in the Bundesliga for a year or something if he really wants out on loan. Tommy Gonzo, because I think he should be a Manchester United player. Tommy Gonzo says, thoughts on Enciso and Buonanotte moves to Chelsea. So Enciso's off, isn't it? And now they've got Buonanotte in on loan. There's no option to buy. Strange. We can maybe read into it that Chelsea's attacking transfer business might be done. And they've settled on it. But from the outside looking in, my honest opinion on it is that if everyone's fit, he probably doesn't even get on the bench for Chelsea. Strange. He's a young talent. There's promise, but there's no option to buy. A lot of what Blue Co does is in terms of the churn, in terms of the profitability for the club, etc. I don't understand it. I think there's a theory that it will allow some of the other kids that Chelsea have got from overseas to develop and then maybe be ready, and then Buonanotte covers that for a year. Very strange is my honest reaction to it. They know more about their club than I do. Owen Walsh says that source is ruling out Alanga too. I mean, yeah, okay. Have they? That would be amusing. Nick Waltermode has officially signed for Newcastle, by the way. Sorry, one more before you, mate. Alex MG87 says, James, do you think Amorim will still be in charge after the internationals? Yes. Yes, I do. Most likely. Partly because I think they'll win today. If they lose today, no. No, I think he will himself be like, you got to let me go. Diljeet07, how have you found jury service so far? We'll sub to Patreon this week, big man. Thank you for the content. Thank you, my friend. It was just getting interesting, and then case got called off. But it got interesting because essentially there were so many holes in the prosecution witness, unfortunately. But I was like, I want to hear the defendant now because I want to see if he fucks up just as badly. Anyway, didn't get that far. Broke for lunch, and they'd obviously all agreed in court there's no case here because it was inevitable at that point. Unless the defendant fucked up, it was going to have to be not guilty. So a lot of it boring. Truthfully, it was just getting a little bit interesting, and then it was off. That said, when we went back downstairs and was told, right, free to go, don't have to come back, that was the happiest I'd been since I was in the Etihad, mate. Alex, I've done Kublai says, thoughts on Russell Martin tenure in Glasgow. Christ on a stick. So I've not watched any Rangers games for clarity, but I think the feeling is pretty clear from most of the Rangers fans. In theory, his style of football, if the players bought into it, should have absolutely smashed it up there. They haven't. I think that's clear. But it was probably never going to smash it against Bruges, who was a really tough game for Rangers. Obviously, they shouldn't have got slapped like that, but this is a side. I watched them win at Atalanta last year in the Champions League. Good team. You've had players refusing to come on as substitutes and stuff. Like he's probably game over unless they win at Celtic tomorrow. The bizarre thing is, if Rangers win tomorrow, it's a two-team league and they're both in crisis. It's madness. Michael Sim says the new Weekender show is an excellent addition to the content on Patreon. It's not on Patreon, Michael. That's the free stuff, mate. So I'm not going to sell that as Patreon content. That is intended to stay as public content on a Friday, mate. Matthew Archer says, how does the single extra podcast work with Basic Plus 2 on Patreon? Do I get to select which extra podcast I get to listen to, or is it a pre-selected one by you? It's selected by me. If I had the option to give you the option to choose, I would. The facility to do that just doesn't exist. So at Basic Plus, you get access to Slack community, My Planner. Slack's like Discord for those who prefer that sort of format. And one podcast a week. The podcast that I select is not a piss take. Okay, so this week it will probably be that show with Nico, right? Because it's a new format. See what you like about it. Make it available to you. That's the most likely. But it's never the piss take. It's normally what I would deem as the most interesting one. So yes, this week we did the differential show, which was a game with 2 preview. The week before, it felt like after how West Ham did at Sunderland that it should be Tottenham, and obviously I'd been to Udine the week before, so that was quite a deep conversation. So it alternates, and it will be one of everything to give you a flavour of everything at some point. I won't take the piss takes. So if there's one that I'm thinking like, that's a real definitive, that's the strongest one this week, in my mind, you might disagree, but that's the one I will make open for you. If I'm not sure, and I'm like, well, this week I'm not sure there's a standout one, it might be like it's the quiz, for example, for a bit of a change. So no, if the facility existed for me to allow you to choose, I would let you choose. It's the same for the intermediate tiers will get a piece of advanced tier content. If I could give you the facility to choose which one, I would. Patreon doesn't allow that facility, unfortunately. There's no way I can be emailing 800 people individually with whatever it is that I can't do that. I'd have to get the 800 responses of what you all preferred as well. I hope that helps answer that. ZZ Grom says bench. Deadline's gone, pal. Kalen says Prem has spent more this window than the Liga over the last 5 seasons. Feels totally unsustainable for European game. Where do you think this leads? Can see why Madrid and Barca support the Super League. Yeah, it's also why they support things like playing their domestic games outside of UK, right? There's an AC Milan game going to Australia. Barca Villarreal's likely to go to America in December. There's real nervousness from across the globe in terms of the power of the Premier League. These guys have got to market themselves better, ultimately. Why has the Premier League become so much more powerful? Just the Premier League. We're not talking about the teams necessarily, the brand of the Premier League. Why? Because I think in the 90s, the pinnacle felt like Serie A to me when I was watching football. And then I think when Sky picked up La Liga felt like a more attractive proposition than the Premier League. What changed? Did money change it? The influx of people like Abramovich and then the guys at City, etc. Did that change it a lot? There's money in football. Excuse me. Which is a regular podcast we do on Patreon, has gone too far to reverse. And when people talk about salary caps, you're too far gone. There's no PFA never going to allow things like that. How do you rein it in? And by the way, the likes of Madrid and Barca don't share their wealth with the other La Liga clubs like the Premier League shares the wealth around. And that's possibly one of the part of the reasons. Is the strength of the rest of the league. To know that this weekend that Leeds could beat Newcastle, that Bournemouth could win at Tottenham, that Fulham could win at Chelsea like they did last year. And it's not to say these results don't happen in La Liga, but the strength of the mid to lower level teams in the Premier League, I think, is now much stronger, and even the quality of the managers than it is in the other leagues. Look at the odds for the Europa League and the Conference League. Palace, never been in Europe before, favourites for the Conference League. And we look at the teams in there, admittedly, you do go, well, yeah, that kind of feels right to me. I don't think it's reversible, mate. I don't think it's reversible. But yeah, I can understand why everybody else will want it. But then my thought would be, right, well, form your Super League. And we ain't in it. And that's up to you guys. And then you might have it reverse. But the Premier League clubs ain't going to join it. So it ain't no Super League, is it? Gavin Richardson says, non-FPL, what do you think about the Made signing? I'm probably excited as a 2 fan. This has been a maddening summer window. I'm going to pass back to yesterday's Weekender, Gavin. He specifically has a timestamp piece on that YouTube video, so I just feel like I'd be repeating myself. Have a look at that yesterday. It's a TBC in summary. Cole Sliver says, hi James, thoughts on Newcastle transfer window? If Isak goes, Watermoney comes in, Ramsdale, Shaw, Ramsey, Elanga gives us more depth. Yeah, that would be the key word, Cole. More depth. Completely agree with that. I think that's been a problem for Newcastle for a while. I think if the players that we think will miss out today miss out, you'd have looked at that this time last year and gone, massive trouble. Doesn't feel quite that with the likes of, particularly Ramsey, I think is a really good stand-in for Joel Linton, for example. So, yeah, feels better, mate. I agree with that. Thomas Thornton says, my brother triple captain Palmer last week and had Pickford vice captain by mistake. 45 points later. He's 175th in the world. There you go. That's it. What you have to remember, though, is that these people probably aren't going to finish above us, guys. But love it. Gunners Girl says, I joined Patreon at the beginning of the season. It is so worth it. Thank you, mate. Zaberlin says, the perfect show. Thank you, mate. Jonathan says, well, all the other streamers talk about their own team for 2 hours. James talks about everyone else's team. Fantastic work. Thumbs up. Can I tell you the truth? I'm going to stand or anybody else's content, right? And I love all the other guys that do their streams. I don't know what any of their streams are like. I've never watched any of them because I'm normally doing my own. If I'm not doing my own, then I'm at Tottenham probably, or travelling to Tottenham. There's a deadline stream. I was going to say next week, isn't it? No, the week after is the Saturday deadline, isn't it? 2 weeks today, deadline stream at the same time. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do one for game week 5. I'm not sure. I might not be able to do it. If I do it, it's a Saturday morning deadline and we're at Brighton at 3 o'clock. It's tight. I haven't decided yet. I might just go, sorry, guys. If I do, I might do something on a Friday night before or a Saturday morning to give you something. I haven't decided yet. I might have to do something earlier. I go, right, do you know what? I'm going to do 9 o'clock. Here's an hour, and then go and watch the other streamers, which are all very good. They're all good guys. Pushkar says, what happens to the Liverpool attack if Isak joins? Ekiteke looks too good to be benched every week. Is it a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth? It seems Liverpool is not dependent on Salah now. Potentially not reliant on Salah now, yeah. Does Ekiteke go wide? Does Ekiteke come out of the team? Do they ease Isak in? Do they go Isak and Ekiteke together and go 4-2-4? What does that mean for Verts? I don't have the answers, mate. I don't have the answers. Elron Cupboard says, do you think we'll see Jose back in the Prem anytime soon? I enjoy watching most Premier League teams at the moment, so I'm going to say I hope not. I would not be at all surprised if West Ham particularly went for him. I don't actually think that Forest would at this stage. I would not be surprised if West Ham do. At some stage, yeah, he'll be back. He said years ago that he would like to, at some stage, come in and help a Premier League team avoid relegation. So fair enough. Chelsea team is in. It's not Reece James. Malagusto does start again. It's, to my eyes, it's the same team that started against West Ham. So Malagusto does start again. Reece James is a substitute. So same team otherwise that started at West Ham. That is probably bad news for Cucurella owners, although he returned last week doesn't mean he can't again, but he'd end up playing the left-sided centre-back position. Fulham, let's see if it is the back three that we thought it might be, and I would suggest it probably is. That's the same team that started against Manchester United, but they could always do things like, I was going to say put Passy the left back, but then that's unnatural for centre backs. So yeah, I would say that's a back three again for Fulham. Same system that they deployed last week, which I didn't love, but might be the right way to play this one. Anthony Robinson is a substitute. Harry Wilson is also on the bench, was a doubt as well. Let me look at the questions. Dilgy07 can have the last one. Where were we? Sorry, guys. Elron Cupboard. Yeah, Josie. Yeah. FPL Copium. Not a player question. Would you let a 0.1 loss on Palmer last night grate on you, even knew he wasn't available? I still would have done it, but yeah. Here's what I'd say, right? And I saw a statement from Ragboli live FPL this morning. This it's way more volatile to start the season, and the work, not just live FPL, but even the other prediction sites do, like, it's good, right? It's really helpful. You have to know at this stage of the season there is massive room for error, and we think that they tweak algorithms a little bit so they're slightly different next year. So when I saw last night Palmer was at like 87% to go, and it's like he's probably not going to go down, I knew that the closer we got to 2:30 in the morning or whenever it is, that would exceed 90%, and that was enough for me not to take a chance. So I made the transfer at like after 10, 11 o'clock last night, because I knew, even though he didn't look like Palmer would go down, like, I knew it was a possibility. Would it grate on me? Briefly. but then you move on because there's nothing you can do about it. Mark, I would have played Ekateke, mate. Thank you, Zaberlin. Guardit25 says, what's your favourite Amrim? It's a Ruben, I suppose. It's the only one I know. Mike Chang says, who would win in a Royal Rumble of all the FPL content creators? I hear Suja Skills. Yeah, but he's not like Tonks. Can I say that? Kids we used to say, oh, he's Tonks. It's like he's Suja's quite skinny. But yeah, Suja's he's beefed up a little, let's say. Who would win Royal Rumble of all FPL content creators? You need something quite tall. The Iceman. The Iceman, James Drury. That's the answer, comfortably. The Iceman, James Drury, definitely. Steve-O would have a shot. Steve-O from Elite FPL, I reckon. He's got proper guns, old Steve. James Drury's the answer. Matt Mahir says, bookies have Anderson and Wharton around evens to make the World Cup squad. In my head, they're nailed on. What defensive central midfielders do you think make the play? And I hope that they both do, mate. Don't think we can say nailed on because we haven't seen Wharton under Tuchel, we haven't seen Anderson under Tuchel. We might not like them. So certainly wouldn't say nailed on. I would hope that they both make it by this time next year. Wharton we've spoken about a lot, going back to the last one. Big fan of Anderson. Thank you, Daniel Mackey. Rice is 100% nailed, obviously. Then it's 3 from 4 from Wharton, Anderson, Mino, Gomez. I don't think Gomez will be involved in that now. Henderson, anyone else who breaks through this season. Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility they might view Gibbs White deeper. It's another possibility. Jordan, yes, I think Barnes will start, mate. Il Lorenzo 7, that explains why your content stays so original. Thank you, I guess. Downstairs, Morning Legend, that analysis you just did about the strength of the Prem compared to other European leagues is probably the best and most succinct I've ever heard. Absolutely spot on. Smash the like, folks. Oh, cheers, mate. I thought it was a bit shit. Not even joking. Mr. Gaming says, good luck to everyone this week and good luck to Amrim. It's up to the players. Love the new show. Great content as always. Cheers. Very welcome. Thomas Thornton says, yours is better and much more rounded, inclusive, considered less template and more human and humorous, by the way. Cheers. Yeah, but people prefer different things, right? So there's a market for you guys if you prefer this, and there's a market for those who prefer their streams, right? Clear as day, right? No, I'm not naive enough to think, oh, everyone thinks James is the best streamer and shit. Mine's different, okay? Mine's different. I think you acknowledge that. So the one thing with me is I'm not trying to be anyone else. I'll do what I think's best for us and our community, and also what I enjoy more as well. Diljeet says, what are the best chicken wings you've ever tried? It's got to be from Chicken, innit? I did try and rack my brain, but it's got to be Chicken, innit? My mum's got me a Chicken t-shirt. Can't wait to see that. Greg says, I saw Andreas Pereira was sold to Palmeiras. Good news for King owners. I think Smith Rowe is more of a direct issue from that perspective. Leo B says, I was there at 1 a.m. and he wasn't going down on Hub, so I left it. Pissed me off. No, I feel that. All I can give is advice. The thing is, don't worry about it. It's gone, okay? But generally speaking, if you're looking at something, and say with Palmer, we knew he wouldn't play this. I totally get, if we didn't know, I'd spoke about it, I'll probably wait till close to deadline because of an early kickoff, right? And you know people would have been pushing for Palmer info. But we did know yesterday it was out. So just a little tip for future is, if you're looking at something, it could happen. Or the player I'm going to buy and plays, he could go up. Do it the night before that circumstance when you know someone's out. It's just a little bit of advice. Because what I desperately hate, by the way, is if someone like Ragaboli feels like he's failed people. Now, he put another message out like about 10 minutes before, and obviously most people are probably in bed. It's like, yeah, shit, it looks like he's going to go. The volume is too much. So ultimately, in the end, he wasn't actually wrong. But there are going to be errors in the model. It's not 100%. And the work that he does for people like us to even have an understanding of it, like, is phenomenal. We shouldn't take that for granted. It's really good. I'm going to cover this last one. Il Lorenzo 7 says, if you could drop any past Spurs player into the current squad Who would it be and why? The obvious answer is Bale, because I think peak Bale is the best thing I've ever seen in a Spurs shirt. Temptations to say Modric or Dembele, but Bale. Bale is the right answer, I think. Particularly when my team is looking to buy another attacking player before this window closes. Simmers left, Bale 10. Yeah. He was born to play for Spurs. Right. On that note, guys, I'm going to go. I'll see you all later. Love you lots. Please smash a like. Please hit the sub. If you can support the show, patreon.com/planetfpl. I'll be truly grateful. Again, happy to answer any further questions on DMs. Try it for free. Have a look at the best bits. Gives you a flavour of what it's all about as well. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hope your arrows are green. So you'll be back with me for the game review on Monday. Ciao for now.